Hi everybody, welcome to my 2023 absolute beginner's guide to DayZ. So this video is for people out there primarily on console, PlayStation and Xbox, but obviously all this stuff works for PC as well, who are new to the game. Maybe you've dabbled with a little bit and you've got completely confused and had to quit out and are thinking, don't know anything about this game, and people who are new to it. The aim of this video is to give you the mechanical skills to get you through that first hour of gameplay, that first hour where normally you'd starve to death or you would be killed by a zombie or die of dehydration. So first off, what is DayZ? So let's try and answer that question by looking at a map of Chernarus. So when you're playing on the vanilla map, the original map, this is Chernarus. It's a post-apocalyptic world where there's been this virus that has turned the people into zombie-like. They're not zombies, but they're infected with this virus that makes them very aggressive. And you will spawn, so you will start along the coast, somewhere like this. And after that, all you've got to do is survive. There's no missions, there's no quests, there's nothing like that. It's just survive and have your own adventures in this massive sandbox. And there's many things that you can do, from hunting to base building to getting really good military gear, lots of stuff like that. And this map is absolutely huge. Now, the other way that it works is we spawn in at the coast somewhere randomly, and then the further you get inland, the better the loot is as well. So all the best weapons and all the best gear is up here in the northwest of the map. So you could say that the gameplay cycle is to spawn in, survive, and then if you want things like really good weapons, move inland to places like the airfield. And after that, it's up to you. Now, DayZ does have another map as well. So if you buy the DLC, you get Livonia. And Livonia is a little bit different. Livonia, you spawn up here along this side of the map, near where the river is, kind of along this area here, and it has built up areas really right in the north and lots of forested areas down in the south. So it's a little bit of a different gameplay experience. It's more of a survival experience. This is really for people who've played a lot of Chernarus and want, I would say, more of a PvE, player versus environment survival experience where you go south and then you survive in the wilderness. Now remember, there are no rules, so friendly fire is on. Nobody has to be nice to you in DayZ, and beware of people you come across. Okay, so back to the game. Now on PC, if you're playing on PC, you do have the option of different modded maps as well, but that will be the subject of a different video. So if we click on play, and then you'll see you have in the middle of the, let's call this the server browser, you have the official servers. So you're not playing DayZ on your local computer or your local console, although that is running running DayZ. It's actually being held on a server somewhere. And that's why all the other people can join it as well, and then you're playing together. And so you've got to kind of decide which server you want to go on to. Now, they've all got names that relate to where they are hosted as well. So you really want to choose a server that's near where you. So I think AP is Asia Pacific or Australasia Pacific. And then if we keep going right with our D-pad, you can see we've now got the EU servers. So these are the ones I would go to, being in the UK. And then we have AP as well. And then we have US, and you'll have Chernarus ones. The ones that don't say Chernarus, don't say Livonia on them, are Chernarus, which is the map really where you want to start off with. And if you look on the right hand side, it will then say players and slots. So generally you'll want something that has a low player count and just favorite it. So press Y on Xbox, that would be triangle on PlayStation. So that would then appear in your favorites, like so. And that would then mean that when you come back to it, you can then go to the same server. If you accidentally go to a different server when you first spawn in, the game teleports you somewhere else on the map, so you can't get an advantage that way. Now, we also have the community tab, which you can reach by pressing the shoulder buttons. This is a different kettle of fish. These are servers that are owned by other people, and these can be modded to have more loot or less loot, more infected, less infected, more weapons, less weapons, that sort of thing. But again, that's the subject for another video. Right, so pretty much we're ready to go. Now, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to be going onto my server because I've made like a little custom bit so I can show you certain things. So I want to go into this one, Scale Speeder Gaming Xbox. So we're going to load in, and DayZ is one of the greatest video games of all time. But until you get the hang of it, for you, I guarantee it will be one of the worst video games of all time. Expect to die an awful lot of times. Dying is all part of this thing in DayZ. So here we are, we spawned in, we're in the corner of the map here, and what I've done is I've just sort of spawned in some items so we can talk about them. But first off, let's go into our inventory by hitting, I think it's the options button on Xbox. I think it's the share button, the big middle button, sorry, on PlayStation. So here we have, so what you'll probably find is, I think they normally give you a flare, something to eat, and some rags. And the way the inventory is divided is on the right hand side you have what you have on your particular body. So I'm wearing a paramedic jacket and a tracksuit pants, so I can go up and down between those and I can store items in there. If I go to the middle by pressing the top left shoulder button, LB, this is what's in my hands. So if I go down to my plum, for example, here, and then I press A on Xbox, or it would be X on PlayStation, that then puts that plum in my hand. So then now I can do something with it. In other words, I can eat it, or if it was a knife, I could fight with it or cut things up. Then if we press the top left shoulder button again, we go to the vicinity. So this is what is on the ground or around us that we can then pick up and do stuff with. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, you'll then have all the tooltips to what you can do with the thing that is in your hands, or what your cursor is, what the item is highlighted at the time. So if I come out of here, if you look in the bottom left hand corner now, you'll see it will say plum, eat, hold. So I can press right trigger, my character is going to eat the plum. Now in DayZ, eating and drinking, staying warm, and making sure you're not bleeding is very important, because if you look in the bottom, in fact, let me move that to there, bottom right hand side of the screen, you'll see some icons. The far right on hand one, that's our overall health in the cross. Then the next one is our blood level. As we bleed, that will then go down, and as we use bandages, or we use things like sewing kits to heal our bleeds, that can then start going up. The next one, the thermometer, that is our temperature, so we want that to stay kind of nice and white. If it goes if it goes blue with hypothermic, and we're going to be using an awful lot of energy, so we're going to be using a lot of food to try and stay warm, and then we could get ill. If it goes right to the top and goes yellow, we're too hot, for example, if we're near fire. The apple is our food, so we need to keep eating to keep that high. And then the next one is hydration, that's the bottle. And the next one is a vitamin pill that I just took before I started this, but you won't have them to start off with. So we have to make sure to stay alive, we need to eat and drink and treat our wounds, and perhaps take medicine as well if we get ill. Now, you can survive probably from the beginning of the game, when you first spawn in as a fresh spawn, probably about 45 minutes an hour without actually eating or drinking anything. So you do have quite a lot of leeway, but we do have to kind of prioritize getting things. So if we come up here, I've kind of put on the ground some things that we want to prioritize. Something that we can use to cut and as a weapon is very, very important. So we really want to find some sort of knife or sharp object as we're running around. Drinks, obviously, preferably things like cans to start off with. You don't want water bottles to start off with. Then we have things like canned food. Now, canned food we need to be able to open. So if you find something like a can of baked beans, or something that you cannot open straight away, like for example if we take these sardines, actually they're already open, we don't want those. Some cans of sardines, I think it is, or tuna, I think it's sardines, you can open them automatically. So when you put them in your hand, it will say open, and they use the ring pull to open them as they would open on a can of drink. But otherwise, if we for example have this can of beans here, we put that into our hands by pressing A, we can't open that, we can't eat that, because we don't have anything to open it with. So we'd have to find a can opener or any sharp object, e.g. a knife. So we can use a knife to open cans. So the first thing we'll learn is we're going to pick up this knife. So we're going to press A on Xbox or X on PlayStation, We've got the can there. And then we're going to use our shoulder button just to go over to the can of beans. We're going to press X to put it on our inventory. That would be square in PlayStation. And then what we can do is if we use our shoulder buttons to go over to our inventory and use our D-pad to go down to the particular item, you'll see we now have B to hold in the bottom right corner, or that would be circle hold on PlayStation. If we do that, we then get in the screen a tooltip that says open can hold if you press right trigger. So we press right trigger, and that is now going to open the can of beans. And then if we then go into our inventory again, we should be able to see that the beans are now open. So if we put the knife back in our inventory with X on Xbox or square on PlayStation, then we can use our D-pad to go down to the beans, press A to put them into our hands, press B on Xbox or circle on PlayStation to come out of our inventory. And now if you look in the bottom left hand corner, it says eat with right trigger. So we can just eat our beans. Now if you eat too much, you'll see an icon that comes up, looks like a gut, and that just says, look, you're full, don't eat anymore. If you keep on eating some more, you're going to be sick, and then you're going to lose that food. It's better to eat smaller amounts regularly as you're going along, unless of course you're struggling for inventory space, because we only have so much inventory space that we can carry. If it's a choice of dropping something, like dropping some food rather than eat it, eat the food, have the energy from the food and the drink in your body rather than carrying it along. So food and drink are a big priority. Let's go over here. If you can find something like a backpack or some sort of bag, satchel, this will then expand your carrying capacity. So if I press Y on Xbox or triangle on PlayStation, we have now equipped the backpack. In fact, if I come out of here, should be able to see we've got our backpack on. Then if we go over to inventory, and we can go up and down with the D-pad, or you can go up and down with the triggers as well. You can see we've now got a hiking backpack that has a value of 42 in it, so it can carry. It roughly equates to weight and size. If you're playing on PC, you can have this little game of Tetris to fit stuff in, but on console we don't have that. Now gloves are very, very important. So let's my character's already got some on, so let's take them off. So let's put these into our hands first with A. So you can see we've got these gloves. Now, gloves are very important because if you get dirty hands, say you kill a chicken or you kill an animal, and you have dirty hands, and then you eat with dirty hands, you can make yourself ill. Whereas if you're wearing gloves, that won't happen. So the sooner you can find gloves or make gloves out of rags, the better. Now let's go over a little bit over. So then we have clothing. Now the clothing you spawn with isn't very good in terms of its insulation value. So you want to find better stuff. So if we use our bumpers, our sort of top right and left buttons to go over to our equipment, then use our D-pad to go backwards and forwards. If you hold the cursor over something, you'll see it says paramedic jacket, which I've got on the moment, is medium insulation. Then we hold it over my tracksuit bottoms, medium insulation. So always try and have the best in terms of insulation clothes that you can find. As clothes become damaged and wear out, they will have worse insulation. As they get wet, they will have worse insulation. So you can wring clothes out. So for example, if my jacket was wet, I could press A to put it into my hands, and then if I came into this view here with it in my hands, if you looked, I think in the bottom left hand corner it would say wring out to dry, and we could do that, but I don't need to because it's not wet. Now we've talked about, so we've got some pants, we've got some trousers, better shoes. Again, at the moment my character is just wearing some made up shoes, so we're going to put on these trail shoes. Shoes wear out as we're going along. We can repair them with things like duct tape, but it's always good once you get a decent amount of inventory space with a backpack, you then want to have a spare pair of shoes with you at all times. And then we've got a nice woolly hat, and you get things like balaclavas as well. So we're in Chernobyl. Chernobyl is in Eastern Europe. Even in the summer it can get chilly, especially at night, and especially as we get away from the coast and we get further up in altitude. let's just do a quick talk about moving things around in our inventory, because this can be a little bit weird. So let's say, this knife I've got here, let's say I want to put it into my hands. I can just press A on Xbox or X on PlayStation. That goes into my hands. If I wanted to drop it on the floor, I could just press and hold X or press and hold square on PlayStation, and as you can see, it's on the floor there. And then I could press X to get it back into my inventory, or if you press and hold A on Xbox, that would be X on PlayStation, and then go up, for example, and down using your triggers or your D-pad, and then release, it will then put that item in a different bit. So I can move this knife from my backpack to my tracksuit pants, or I could come across and put it into my hands, or I could again press and hold A, press the top left shoulder button, it would be X, and press the top left shoulder button on PlayStation, and I could drop it on the floor. So it's a good idea to get used to your inventory and how things move around. Also, we have the ability to have a quick access wheel. So if you press your left stick in and then press up or right and then press A on Xbox or X on PlayStation, you can then allocate that particular item to a particular slot in your quick access wheel. So let's say these rags here. So I'm going to click in my left stick and hold it in, then I'm going to press right on my right stick, then I'm going to be pressing A on Xbox, that would be X on PlayStation, that allocates it to there. So if we now come out in the inventory and I press and hold my right shoulder button, you can see I can now use my right stick to select kitchen knife, or go left to select rag. As you get things like different jackets and you get special vests, like utility vests, your number of quick access slots goes up. So I've only got 4, but I can end up with, I think you have about 8 when you get something like that on. So that's very important to do. Now let's go left a bit more. Weapons. You're going to need weapons to deal with these fellas over here, the infected, and that fella behind him, human players as well. Some weapons are really just good for melee combat, like the baseball bat, and then you get things like the axes. Now the axes are really good because with an axe, not only can you use it to melee people and infected and kill them, but you can also use it to cut down trees so you can start fires. So what we can do now is our axe is on our back, so if we click in the left stick and then go up with our right stick, we can allocate that up there. So now I can go dunk and we can equip our axe. So we start bleeding, I can equip our rag or our bandages, and I can quickly change between them. To engage in combat, all you need to do is press your right stick, press your left trigger, then press your right trigger to swing, and if you pull back on your left stick, that will put you into defensive mode. So when you're fighting zombies and they're swinging at you, you pull back. When you want to hit them, press the right trigger. If you want to do a hard hit, you press Y on Xbox or triangle on PlayStation, and that'll do a big hit. But if you look in the bottom left hand corner, you can see my stamina. When I do big hits, or if I jump, or if I'm sprinting around, you'll see my stamina go down. That stamina is also reduced when you're carrying heavier and heavier stuff as well. So the more stuff you're carrying, the less stamina you'll have, so you won't be able to sprint for quite as long, and you won't be able to melee attack for quite as long. Moving on, let's go over here now. Things like medicines are very, very important in DayZ long term. So bandages are very important because as you engage in fights with infected, you will get cuts. Now, if you have a level 1 cut, and what will happen is in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, you'll see a bleed icon appear, and it will say 1, for example, and you can treat that with rags or bandages. But what's very important is the bandage must be disinfected. If you look in the middle at the top of the screen, you see it says disinfected. So if you have a cut and you have a bandage in your hand, you'll see the tooltip to treat your cut. So you just pull the trigger and it will treat that. If you've got more than 1 cut, so it says 1, 2 or 3, you keep treating them until it stops. Bandages are quicker to use than rags, and you can also use sewing kits as well. However, if your bandage or your rag or your sewing kit is not disinfected, you could well get blood poisoning afterwards. Also, if you just get, for example, 1 cut and the cut heals itself, there's a chance again that you'll get blood infection. And this will kick in after a while, and your character will start to make funny noises, the screen will start to blur, and you're in real trouble then. In the first stages of blood infection, you could use you can apply some iodine tincture or some alcoholic tincture to your wound, and that will sort out the blood infection. However, if the blood infection goes further than that, you're going to need to treat it with some antibiotics. So you're going to have to find some tetracycline pills, and I'm going to show you where to find them in a bit. So bear that in mind. That's why you always want to be trying to keep your character healthy. So you want to be treating cuts with disinfected bandages, and you want to be taking medicine. If you find some vitamins, you want to pop a vitamin to keep yourself healthy. You want to be eating enough food, drinking enough, keeping warm, all of these things, because there is an immunity stat that is hidden that we can't see that goes up with our health. And basically, the healthier we are and the warmer we are, the higher our immunity is against getting ill, because you don't want to get ill in the infected apocalypse. Now, with things like alcoholic tincture and iodine tincture, we can apply this to rags and sewing kits to disinfect them, or if a bandage becomes not disinfected, you can use that. I'm not sure really when that happens. So that's those things. So we've got tetracycline. Now, there are many illnesses that you can get in DayZ as well, and they are treated by various different tablets. So charcoal tablets tend to be if you've eaten something you shouldn't have done, maybe you've drunk some petrol, something like that. And we also have, I think, codeine, which are painkillers, and there's other things as well, but I'll let you research them in your own leisure. Now, DayZ is an amazing game because not only does it mimic the real world in the fact that the map is based on real world places in the Czech Republic, but also it gets dark and we have to deal with the night time. So we have things like torches. So if we pick up this torch by pressing A to put it on our hands on Xbox or X on PlayStation, we have a flashlight. But if you look down below, you see it needs a battery. Luckily, I have a battery here, so I can press Y to put it on. Now I can press the right trigger, and you won't be able to see this, but I'm turning the light on or off. So important to find that. Also, things like flares, you can use these to light your way. So just press right trigger, and these last for a long time, and you can see where you're going. Just bear in mind, obviously, with things like flares and torches, enemy players who are out to do you no good, will be able to see you. Remember, you can drop things by pressing and holding X or square. And even these things here, the humble glow stick, if you're struggling, pop one of these and it will give you just enough light to be able to see your way. Now, a lot of people may well just log off when it gets dark or go to a different server when it gets dark, but trust me, some of the most exciting experiences you will have in DayZ will be when you're trying to survive in the dark. Now, let's go and have a look at these fellas. So these are infected zombies. For some reason, they're floating in the air. Now, these are very friendly ones. They're not going to do anything to me. Now, when they're by themselves, or maybe in twos, they're not too difficult to deal with, zombies. But when there's lots of them, they will kill you very, very quickly. Hopefully what will happen is they'll just knock you out and you'll wake up a few minutes later. You'll have dropped whatever in your hands and you'll probably have some bleeds, but you'll be able to treat that and get up. But be very wary of these, especially in the early days when you're not quite sure how to deal with them. If you crouch and you crouch walk and go slowly, you will make less noise. Also, the type of shoes that you are wearing affect the amount of noise you're wearing as well. So if I'm wearing, for example, these trail shoes, they are quieter than big army assault boots. If I was wearing like sneakers though, they would be even quieter. If I'm wearing the improvised feet wrappings, they're quiet too. And if you are quiet, what that enables you to do is not only avoid zombies as well, but if I go and get do we have a knife here, do we? Alright, I picked up a knife. If you have a knife in your hand, I'm not sure whether this will work actually, let's see. If you have a knife in your hand and you can get behind a zombie without him seeing you or hearing you, you can do a stealth kill like that and they die straight away, but you have to be very quiet and very, very careful. In your early days, you're really better off just avoiding zombies where you can. But if you do get into a fight with them, remember, you don't need to have a weapon in your hand to fight a zombie. You can fight them bare-knuckled. Just remember, as they're swinging for you, pull back to defend, because they can't hurt you then, and then right trigger to do a punch, and then top button, so it would be Y on Xbox or triangle on PlayStation to do a hard punch, or you can even run at them and do a really hard punch that way, but try and avoid combat. Now these people, real players, normally they don't look this, normally they've got some clothes on. These are some of the most dangerous dangerous things you will come across in DayZ, because there are no rules. Anything can happen with a transaction, with a interaction between other players. So you've really got to think, what do you want to do when you come to deal with them? Again, probably in your early days, avoid other players where you can. But if you do come up to them, have a chat if you want to, and then see how you get on. But I would say avoid other players to start off with. Now, what I've put together up here is a little town, because I just wanted to talk about, in DayZ, the loot is very, very clever with the way it works. And the way it works is that the sort of loot you would expect to find in a certain place in the real world is kind of where it spawns. So, for example, this is a police station. So in a police station, you'll find police clothes, police weapons, that sort of thing. This is an ordinary house. So in ordinary houses, you'll find things like food, can openers, basic clothes. In military locations, you'll find military weapons, military uniforms, that sort of stuff. In industrial locations, you'll find industrial stuff. So you'll find things like what it would be, things like wrenches or tools or industrial clothing. And here we have, this is a clinic. So in a clinic, you'll find medicine. That's why these are very, very important things as well. So let's wander over here and let's go into this little house. In houses and in any structures in DayZ, the chances of finding loot is very, very low. All right, this isn't like PUBG where you'll find things straight away. So what we found here is we found a collar dress. So what you always want to be doing is when you come across stuff is have a look at it. Is it better at insulation than the stuff you've got on? And then you want to craft rags with it by taking your knife out. And rags are very, very important in DayZ. Here we go. So we've made the rags. So if we go back to our inventory, we'll see them on the floor. So we can press X on Xbox or square on PlayStation, and we can put them into our inventory. Now we've got to be careful, because if we put our cursor over, we can see they're not disinfected. So if we were to use these as a bandage, we could get infected. However, what we can do is if we put our knife away and we put these into our hand, and then we come out, you'll see in the bottom left hand corner some tooltips. So what it's saying is, if we press right trigger right now, we can craft improvised hand wrappings, which means gloves. So if you didn't have any gloves, one of the first things you could do is make some gloves. We could craft an armband, not very useful. Improvised eye patch, not very useful. Legs wrapping, not very useful. Torso, not very useful. Face wrapping, not very useful. Feet wrapping, shoes. So we could make some shoes. Now, the improvised shoes that you can make are these ones, and these are good because they're very, very quiet. So if you're wearing, for example, hiking boots and you're trying to creep around some infected, swap to improvised feet wrappings. They don't last very long, but they will give you the advantage over the zombies to get past them or get some stealth kills in without being heard by clomping around in your big boots. Let's get rid of that and let's go get our axe out. Okay, so let's now go over here to the police station. Now, in this police station, I've rather handily spawned in, hopefully, a shotgun. Now, in DayZ, what's rather odd is that with the weapons, to soft aim, you press left trigger, and then to aim down sight, you click in your right stick, like so. So it's a bit odd to start off with. And what's also strange is the fact that guns often won't have any bullets in them, so you need to manually load them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this onto my shoulder with Y, or it would be triangle on PlayStation, and I'm going to pick up these shotgun slugs. And then if you look in the bottom left hand corner, it says right trigger to unpack. So I've got to unpack the shotgun shells first, and now I can put them in my inventory with X, or that would be square on PlayStation. Now I can put my gun into my hands with X. Now what I can do is, now forgive me if I get this wrong, I can press left trigger to ADS, and then if I press and hold Y on Xbox or triangle on PlayStation, is going to load up my weapon. There we go. And you can see I'm individually loading in those shells. So if you look in the bottom left hand corner, I've now got a shell in there, that's the one, and I've got 4 shells in. So if I fire and then I reload, so you can see when it comes to weapons in DayZ, there's these extra steps you have to take in terms of loading the weapon and taking the bullets out of the box, then loading the weapon. Now, if we go over here in this little military base, what you'll see here is we've got a KAS-74U assault rifle. Now, as you can see, this is actually in bits. So we have the gun itself, we have the stock, and we have the magazines. Now, I'm going to pick up this magazine. Now, most magazines you come across will be empty, so I'm actually going to empty this magazine now. If you look in the bottom right-hand corner, left-hand corner, you'll see it says empty magazine. So I'm going to take the bullets out of it. Most of them anyway. Okay. So most magazines, you'll find them in this sort of state where they'll have a few bullets in them. So let's say I find this KAS-74U, so I can take it into my hands, press and hold X, and then you can see down the bottom below it can take a stock. I can put a ghillie wrap on it. This particular weapon will take an improvised suppressor and a magazine. So there's this stock over here, so if I press Y we can add that. And then what we can do now is if we press Y on Xbox, or that would be triangle on PlayStation, we can put that on our shoulder. And then we can pick up this box of bullets that we have here, and we can unpack the box of bullets. I really wanted to show you this just to show you how convoluted this system is. We can put those bullets into our inventory. Now let's put the magazine into our hands with A, or that would be X on PlayStation. Then using our shoulder buttons to go over to our inventory, and then using our D-pad to go to the bullets. Remember, they've got to be the right bullets. So these are 545 by 39, so these fit the mag for the KA-74. There are several different types of bullets, several different types of mags. Now if we press and hold B, if you now see we have the tooltip in the middle of the screen that says right trigger to load magazine. So press right trigger, and our character is now loading bullets into a magazine. So imagine you're in a firefight with somebody, and you've only got one magazine, but you've got lots of bullets in your backpack, whether they be in boxes or whether they be loose, because you can find loose bullets as well, like you can see here. Once you've fired the bullets out of that magazine, it isn't just a quick case of reloading like it would be in Call of Duty or Battlefield. It's a case of getting the magazine out, loading the bullets back into the magazine, and then putting it back on your gun. So if we put the magazine back into our inventory, equip the gun. Now let's see if I get this right now. If I press Y, we've loaded the gun, but if we press and hold Y or press and hold triangle, that magazine is now in the gun. And remember, left trigger, soft aim, click in, right stick, hard aim, like so. And then we've got the wonderful fully automatic or semi-automatic, depending on what you want to do. To change between fully automatic and semi-automatic, just aim down sight and press A on Xbox, or that would be X on PlayStation, and we can change to fully automatic. The guns in DayZ are absolutely amazing. I have to be careful because I'm probably going to get some zombies turning up in a minute. Ooh, so we've covered an awful lot of ground. Now, did I put anything in here? I don't think so. Nope. So what you're going to be doing next is you're going to be thinking about finding your way, because you'll want to go to a town or go to a village and start getting equipped. You know, you'll want to find that backpack, you'll want to find that shotgun, you want to find those meds, find those drinks. In fact, there is one other thing around here I was going to show you. Let's go up here. So we talked about food. Now this is a water pump. These water pumps are scattered in the villages and towns, and you can just drink from them. Press and hold X, or that would be square on PlayStation, and we can drink from them, but it's a very, very slow process. If you find a canteen or a plastic bottle, you can do this much quicker. However, what you must always do when you find a canteen or a plastic bottle, take it to your hands to start off with, and then if you look in the bottom left hand corner, you see it says RT drink hold. Press up and down on your D-pad to empty it. Always empty your bottle first, otherwise you can drink it and you'll get ill. Basically you'll get cholera, which is not good. And once you've got an empty bottle, just run up to a water pump and you'll get the tooltip to fill it up, and you can fill it up from here. And then what you want to do then is run somewhere else so that you can drink it safely without having to worry about getting shot, because people camp out water pump sites because they know that's where people go when they're thirsty. Once you've had a drink and you've filled up mostly your hydration bottle in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, just one simple plastic bottle will let you go across most of the map. And there are pumps in almost all the villages and all the towns. You've just got a case of finding them. So let's fill this up again. And then we can be on our way. So the next stage really would be figuring out where we are and where we want to go. So what I've done down here is, have I put down? No, I haven't. So one of the things you'll want to find is a compass, and that tells you which direction you're heading in. But you'll want to run along until you find street signs. Now the street signs in DayZ are in Russian, which is a bit of a pain. But we have this wonderful resource called the iSurvive map, which is what you're looking at here. So as you're running along and you'll find these street signs, there's kind of three main types. There's street signs like this here that tell you the distance to the nearest towns and villages. And you get these types here. This one here is you'll get as you're entering a town. And this one with the red line through it, you'll get as you're exiting a town. And you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, I can't read these things. How do I know where they are? Well, the reason for that is iSurvive is incredibly helpful in the fact that we can look at a thing and go, okay, so let's have a look at this sign. Let's find one that's useful. So this one. So what does that say? So if you look at this, it's Kabah. So what you can do is you can go to the iSurvive map and you can type in Kabah. And then we can see, if we go down, oh, right, that's Kabino. And if we click on that, that then tells us where it is. So we know, if we were to come across that sign, that we're in Kabino. Or, if we were to see this sign, oh, so that's wrong, that is. If you were to see one of these signs that said Kabino 2.5 miles forward or to the left, we would know, okay, that's how far it is to that town. Therefore, we must be that certain distance from that town. And you can then work out where you are. And the beauty with the iSurvive map is that you can put on the filters. So if we put on all loot, so if we scroll in, and let's say we're going towards Mogilevka, this then tells us where the water pump is in Mogilevka. This tells us there might be a car there, there's a shopping centre there, there's a church there, there's the pub there. And remember, you won't find things all the time in these particular places, but you'll have a chance of finding them. So if we go, say, to, let's go down to, let's go to Chernogorsk, one of the bigger cities. You can see we have a water pump there. We have a police station there. There's a hospital there. If you click on the icons as well, it shows you what they look like. So you know what to find when you're looking around. And it's a very powerful tool when you're new to helping you find your way around. So you're not getting you will get lost, but you should be able to find yourself and then give yourself a direction to go in. As soon as you've got the basics, so as soon as you've got like a backpack, you've got some food, and you've got some drinks, start heading inland as soon as you can, because you want to get away from people who are spawning at the coast, because often there's nothing more dangerous than a freshie, because someone who hasn't got anything has got nothing to lose if they come across you. Whereas as you go inland and you meet other players, especially if you're not overtly aggressive, you'll probably find that you can find someone. But let me just plug in my microphone. So then, yeah, okay, so when you've got a microphone plugged in, if you press and hold left on your D-pad, you'll see that little mic thing has appeared, so I can then talk. If I tap it twice, I've now got permanently mic. Now, this is local area talking. So what you want to do is when you're coming up to people, make sure you have your mic on. You say, hi, friendly, yeah, how can I help? Make sure you haven't got your gun or your weapon in your hands. And just be wary. I mean, Lots of people are friendly in DayZ, lots of people aren't. Often it depends on the server you're on. It can depend on the situation you're on as well. But some of the best interactions you'll have is when you come across a complete stranger and you'll have a chat, and then you'll go off on an adventure together. You might end up betraying each other, they might end up shooting you, you might end up shooting them for their gear, but the adventures you'll have along the way are amazing. Also, if you can play with friends and other players, that can be really cool, and you can use the I Survive map to figure out where you are so that you can join up with each other that way. Whew, we've covered a lot of ground in this, and there is much more to learn in DayZ, but hopefully by teaching you these mechanical skills about opening cans and drinking and loading weapons and the basics you should be looking for, this will then get you through that first hour. So now you can start asking the questions. Okay, wait a minute, how do I hunt? How do I chop up an animal? How do I make a fire? How do I cook food? You know, how do I craft a simple base? How do I make a wall? How do I make a watchtower? All these things, and trust me, just go on Google, do a Google search for them, or go on YouTube and do a YouTube search for them. There's just lots and lots of really great tutorials out there that show you exactly what to do. And there's so much in DayZ that even now, after playing it for a few years, there's still stuff I come across now. I think, I didn't know how to do that. Oh, that's amazing. And you forget things as well. So hopefully this video has been useful. If it has been, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe. If you've got any questions or comments, put them down below. And of course, I'll see you again soon.